Pam, do you know where Taylor's at the hospital?
Just OU.
I was thinking it was like.
I'm just not 100%, but I think that's where it was. OU's where I heard she was.
I've heard Norman and I've heard. So,
Are you on admin or are you on faculty?
Oh, we know, yeah. There's no mic. I thought we must have my last one. No, wait, do you think
yeah, I mean.
we don't have too much, just curious.
All right. That's where I. I hereby open the regular meeting of the Board of Education of Chickasha Public School District 26I-001. The meeting was properly posted in compliance with Oklahoma Open Meetings Act 25, Oklahoma State Section 301 to 314. The time is 6:02. We go to call, roll call.
Howard? Here. Cliff? Here. Curtis?
Here.
Jill?
Here.
Morris?
Here. Item 3, pledge of allegiance. Please join us.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment of silence. We lost one of our dear employees this afternoon in the central kitchen, Jay Young. And we're going to take a moment of silence to reflect and think about our staff, our students, our safety, and our upcoming school year. Okay, thank you. Before we get to public comment, we're going to start out with a introduction tonight. We have some new folks that some of us have never met, and we're so excited that you're all here, that we're starting a new school year. Your school board is pumped and excited and ready to support you in whatever you need. And we enjoyed hosting you all last Friday night, and for those of you that didn't make it, we missed you. I will tell you the same thing we said last weekend. Call us anytime that you need anything we can do to help, and we'll call Rick. So if you don't mind, Let's start with JD and we'll go through the back half and then we'll move to the front half. Would you stand to tell your name and what you're gonna be doing this year?
Jerry Don Bray, I'm trying to remember my title, Secondary Activities Director, or something along that line.
Dave Turner, Executive Director of Operations.
Preston Meeks, principal at Bill Wallace Early Childhood Center. Ron Stone, principal at Chickasha High School. Debbie Davis, Chickasha Middle School principal.
Joe Mulder, Ed Tech Coordinator.
Elizabeth Beckner, otherwise known as Ketchum. I am the Director of Alternative Education.
Gary Harrison, I'm the principal at Grand Avenue Elementary. I'm Tammy Swinburne, I'm the special education coordinator.
Troy Cook, I'm a child nutrition.
I am Dr. D'Amica Norwood, and I am the Federal Programs Coordinator.
Wilson Bowens, Curriculum Coordinator.
Okay, we'll start over here.
Dr. R.P. Ashante Alexander, Principal of Lincoln Elementary School.
Lisa Johnson, and I am the Director of Adult Education.
Pam Lakeman, Executive Director of Personnel and Student Services.
Okay, and we have 3 visitors. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Lavon Blaylock. I am the President of the Support Employees Union.
My name is Charlie Hammond, Dr. Parent.
Just.
Jim Blackburn, I'm just a citizen, Chickasha.
Welcome.
Welcome all of you. And like I said, we're really excited to have the staff back with us tonight. Looking forward to a great year. Item 4 is public comment, and we do have one person who would like to address the board at this time.
Yes, I would like to thank all those who attended Dr. Taylor's presentation on critical race theory last month at Baptist Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Yes. Item number 5, staff reports.
Ms. Lademan, you're up first.
Want me to go first?
Put the S plan, S3 first.
Okay, so we're working on a spending plan of our ESSER 3 funds. That we received $6.4 million in that fund. We have till 2024 to spend. We have to look at different ways to spend the money. At least 20% of the money has to be addressing learning loss. So one of the things that we've been looking at is replacing our HVACs, and you guys approved that at the last board meeting. We're looking at replacing our water fountains with water bottle filling stations. Just, with COVID, we had to shut down most of our water fountains, and I thought this would be a way to alleviate that problem at the sites. We're looking at replacing our service fleet vehicles. When you get this money at a one-time thing, we want to be very mindful and very purposeful in how we spend it, and be able to relieve the district budget of things that come up unexpected, like when a heat and air unit goes out and we're trying to figure out how to replace that. We're trying to be very purposeful with this. We're also going to be offering some COVID leave for staff. The federal government did that and offered leave up through December of last year, and then they did not renew that. So we're looking at offering 10 days of COVID leave to our staff, for our staff members who have COVID, or if it's a parent whose child has COVID, they obviously can't leave the child at home, but we can offset that cost by using the ESSER money to do that. As far as the learning loss goes, we've hired an LPC and an LPCC under supervision. We're looking at class size reduction. House Bill 1017 set a class size limit of 20 students in K through 5. I'm trying to remember K through 5, K through 6. And so getting those numbers down to 20, I'm not for sure that how close we're gonna get to that because we have such a teacher shortage. I mean, we're struggling right now to ever replace the staff that we have. But it does opt for allowing for teaching assistants too, should we not be able to find enough certified teachers to reduce class size to those limits. So we're gonna use money to offset that. We're started letters training last Friday. Kendra Shank is coming in and providing letters training to our staff K through 5. And she's doing it free of charge as far as her part of the training goes. We did buy the curriculum that goes along with the program. And then we paid teachers who weren't on contract yet to come to training last Friday. And we're also going to, as part of this training, and it's all on teaching reading and understanding how to teach reading and the theories behind it and the research behind it. Our staff that participate have to do about 8 hours of work before each one of those trainings throughout the year. And so we're going to do $1,000 stipend for them for their commitment to this training and for all of the work that they have to do outside of school hours as part of the training. We can use the money for summer school teachers. So we had good success with that last year and want to continue with that. And then with hiring our new LPCs and our new social worker, they all need new curriculum and new resources for working with our students and families. And so we'll use some of the money in that direction too. With our CARES monies this past year, we used some of it to offset our basic utilities, our water bill, I think our water bill is like $10,000 a month. And so our water bill, our bus leases, our electric, all of those utilities. And as much of that as we can offset off of the district burden, then that helps put the funds back out to what we need to do with our students. Using it on our school bus lease and then Vision Reality. And I think that's one thing that's going to be on the board agenda today. We're going to look at using some of that. This isn't all inclusive yet. Still planning through it. We do have to submit a budget by August 19th. We will post our spending plan on our district website so everybody can see how we plan on spending our money and just trying to get that ready. But it is one of those things that we can revise the budget and we can amend it as we're working through this process.
Now tell me again what our total ESSER funds to 1, 2, and 3 altogether is about now. I'll be
Yes, sir. So the CARES Act was $728,000. ESSER 2 was $2.6 million. This is $6.4 million.
Our CARES money, the first round will be spent by September, the end of this September, and that money's gone. So then we're working off the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. Yes, ma'am.
What was the feedback from those that went to the letters, professional development? How did they feel about it?
From what I saw and from what I heard, it was very positive. It's one of those things you go, if you went the traditional route, when you did 4 years of college and education, I had 4 reading classes in my education, coursework. I walked away still not knowing how to teach reading. And so what Kendra did with us was a lot of the why and the brain therapy, and it was very eye-opening. So many of the teachers said, well, I didn't know that. Well, I never heard that. Well, I wish I would have known that years ago when I first started. So we've got new teachers in there being trained, and we have veteran teachers. And so our principals, Tressa was there, Dareth was there, their assistant principals, Dr. A was there, Angie was there. So they are all being part of it, because if you're truly going to change and make a movement of change, your administrators have to know it and have to have a deep understanding of the curriculum also. Yes.
All part of this. So.
That is awesome.
If you're-
Thank you.
And I know that
Thank
I understand how busy you guys are this time of year, and the last thing that you want to do 3 days before school starts is sit in training, or 4 days or whatever. But it's absolutely, if you're going to carry it through and it's really going to be a foundation, you have to have the leadership involved. So good kudos to all of you for being there.
you.
Okay. it will be posted on the website once we get finished.
And it is fluid, you can make changes.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, with anything, it'll have to be, they know when they give you that amount of time to spend that much money, you're not going to know everything at the start. So,
I really like the goals you have for the loss of learning. I mean, I think you put on a lot of directions, very vague, obviously, there's a lot of interpretation. I like the reading and the teacher side. I think those are two good, really things. I really like that.
thank you.
And I love insurance too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kelly got that worked out for us, so yeah.
so now we know that next year on convocation, every site had themes, so the board needs a set of shirts.
We did.
And
maybe
a
a pyramid.
didn't have a set
There
of shirts.
was pyramids, there was all kinds of things. We got to up our game. I want you to cheerleader right here. Where are you? Now, get ready.
I admit, I was worried about workman's comp.
Thank you. I was sweating bullets. I think I looked to Robin and said, uh-oh, work was going.
Oh, yes.
But it was awesome. It was awesome.
All right, up next is the continuity of service plan. So last year, we presented to you the return to learn plan as we were trying to reopen schools from the shutdown in the spring of 20. And as I said this morning at convocation, we've been open ever since. So for us, it wasn't another return to learn plan. This is how we're going to continue based on things that we're going on right now. So there's copies back there if you want to get a copy of it. But it's 10 pages total. I apologize, but there's a lot of information that you have to work in here. Starting on page 3, and let's get to the meat and potatoes of it. We're offering 2 different learning options this year. Option 1 is a traditional classroom with remote learning days. So if an event, something happens and it's inclement weather, because we're still able to do remote virtual instruction, we're going to have school that way. Now, it will be just like we did last year. If we're out, bad weather hits, and it's not possible to do remote learning, then we will call that a snow day. It's an inclement weather day, but we'll continue to assess them day by day, and we will make our decisions between 4 and 5 p.m. daily. So our parents know how to plan for the next day. No early morning surprises. As best we can avoid those. I think our parents really appreciate that. Option 2, there's only 2 options. Option 2 is a virtual online learning option. It's being done by Adventum. They are providing the teachers. Parents will work with those teachers virtually. We will provide equipment, hotspots, Chromebook, all those things to help them connect. We'll get them enrolled in their classes. They will work with an Adventum teacher on those courses, and those grades will be transcribed back to us. They're still a CPS student, so they can attend events and those type of things. The one thing, it's a caveat here this year, is if you do virtual instruction, you are not eligible to be in athletics and those type of things. You have to be a traditional athlete this year.
Is that really outlined in this?
It's and so in order for you to do virtual, you have to do an application process. It's all in there, and it's, if you remember back in December, I came in and said we had X number of kids that were failing one or more classes. So if you failed a course last year virtually, you are not eligible to do virtual this year. That is pretty much our work. All right, moving on to page 4, where we start our safeguards. I want to bring everyone's attention to face coverings. Face coverings are optional but recommended, as in accordance with state law, Senate Bill 658, that went into effect on July 1. Only by executive order of a state of emergency issued by Governor Stitt or Governor of Oklahoma can a school district then mandate the wearing of face coverings or masks. This is in effect for all students, staff members, and visitors. So just please let that be known. They are optional. We had a principals meeting today at 4:30. We talked about how we're going to respect those that choose to wear a face covering, and we're going to respect those that choose not to. So we want to be very clear about that.
When you say optional, does a teacher have the right to say, I want every student in my class to wear a face covering?
Senate Bill 658 clearly states that schools cannot impose a mask mandate without an emergency order. So a teacher saying that's going to happen in my classroom is the school said there's a mask mandated, Mr. Crosby. I cannot do that.
So the teacher can wear one, but she can't require.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct. We are still waiting on the transportation piece. I'll be very truthful with you. We are still waiting to hear our legal counsel's advice and recommendation on requiring masks on transportation. So there is a federal guidelines that's out there that requires masks to be worn on public transportation, which includes airplanes and buses. The problem that we have is Senate Bill 658. It kind of gives a little bit of contradiction there. Education attorneys met today with OSSBA at noon. They're supposed to be sending out advice and guidance from there. So we might have to alter the transportation based on what they tell us. We certainly will listen to our legal counsel. But as of right now, face coverings are optional. So, and we're going to continue to work that way. We will continue with sanitation of schools, hand washing etiquette, cough etiquette, vaccinations. You have to have the required vaccinations as listed out in state law. And it also happens to be Senate Bill 658 does all the vaccinations, by the way. Which, although what Senate Bill 658 did was just revise that law. It added 2 different points. But COVID vaccinations are not required for you to be enrolled or in attendance in a school. So, but other vaccinations that are out there as part of state law still are in effect, and they do have to follow those. Everything else, page 5 is just a lot of information about social distancing. It is 3 feet still being recommended by CDC. School libraries, hallways, cafeterias. We've been meeting with our principals and talking with them. We're encouraging pod style seating in the elementaries as best they can. We are going to have outside recess. Kids need to be able to play. Kids need to burn off some energy. Supplies, arrival, dismissal, visitors. Visitors are welcome. When you get to a site, and this is what I told principals today, we are in orange in Brady County. Most areas are orange. At this time, we would probably be a little bit more restrictive about giving a visitor just access, being able to get into a classroom and be around other kids. At this time, we're going to be a little cautious. We're not saying you can't come in the building. You can certainly come in there and see your kid, get the main office, those type of things. But we just, our goal, and I've heard me say this 100 times, we just want to educate kids, and that starts Thursday. We want to keep our doors open and keep us moving. Frequently asked questions. So in this particular part, there's over 2 pages, section 3, and almost a half pages, just of Q&A. Different things here and there. I really want to draw your attention to page 7. And it's the bottom 2 questions. Does CPS require any student or staff member to have the COVID-19 vaccine? It's a short answer, no. Okay. Senate Bill 658 does not allow any school district to require a student or staff member to have the COVID-19 vaccine as a contingent to be in attendance. COVID-19 vaccine is available to students down through age 12 and adults. Please consult your primary physician for additional information. We are not medical professionals. We are not going to go out and recommend anybody to take any type of vaccine or whatever. You need to consult your primary physician. As parents, you make those decisions for your kids, and we will go on from there. We will make recommendations and things to educate.
I have a quick question on
Yes.
that, just the way it's written. We also don't provide the vaccine.
We do
correct?
not.
Okay, because it said to, it's available.
It's
them,
available
but
to
you
students.
need, as far as medical
Yeah.
professionals. from the-
We could hold a vaccine clinic, that's what they call.
Right, but
I have opted so far, I'm gonna leave that with the county health department.
that's, yeah.
I really don't want to get into us being that part.
And that's kind of what I wanted to clarify. I didn't want to give the impression that we're,
We may request, here is one note that I do want to draw to. We may request proof of vaccinations. This is straight from legal counsel today. In order to reduce the amount of time if a student or staff is quarantined during the school year. So in the event that there's a quarantine, for whatever reason, and I'll get to quarantine in just a second. There are 3 options from the state health department, and it is listed out in this handout here, and it's on the very last page. And they give an options B and option C, ways to reduce a quarantine time. And I'll just be real true. You quarantine for 10 days, you may return on day 11, you self-monitor, the 3 W's, wear a mask, all those type things. And so if a parent says, well, you know what, my kid has been vaccinated, because this is a pandemic, it has been declared a pandemic legally. School schools do have the right to ask for proof of vaccination, not to keep in a shot record, but just to verify that kid has been vaccinated in the event we're engaging in quarantines. Okay, let me explain quarantines before we start having a lot of questions. But after the next question, CPS require quarantines for students or staff that are in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19. Quarantines will not be required for student or staff members that come in close contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. Parents and staff members will be given guidance from the Oklahoma State Department of Health, that is this handout here, regarding quarantines with the recommendation to quarantine. So we're going to encourage you to quarantine. We're just going to say, here's what the state health department is. They're encouraging you to quarantine, but then we're going to say, or consult your primary physician on the next steps. It always, in my opinion, needs to go back to your doctor. You having a conversation with your doctor on what to do for your child or for yourself. Should conditions change, please make note of this. Should conditions change, for example, an emergency order is issued, once again, that has to be by our governor. CPS will reconsider quarantines and may update this guidance because first sentence says quarantines are not required. Okay? I just want to be very clear. I know this is being recorded, it's being everything else. I'm just being very clear. If that changes, that there's an emergency order or whatever issue, we are going to come back and re-examine this quarantine item again. The last note, students or staff members in households that are experiencing multiple COVID-19 positive tests should quarantine immediately. They're calling this an outbreak. It's like a household outbreak is what they call it. And they need to consult their primary physician ASAP because you have multiple members of your household that still with this. So those are the main big draws of this. There are other Q&As, questions that are in here. We talk about water fountains, health etiquettes. How can I help the school district as a parent? There's a list down there. On the back are acknowledgements. I've had one big meeting. I've had some small meetings with people, individual discussions. And so if we've talked about it, if we have, as I like to say, cussed and discussed this thing, your name's on the back here, not to throw you under the bus. We just wanted to show people we've been out getting information, talking with people. This does not come easy. So the only time that I would bring to you a vote, it would be is if the governor issues a declaration of emergency and our health department is calling saying we have the conditions for a mask mandate. Then we would go through a multiple step process. The governor's office has issued a declared state of emergency. The health department agrees that we should have the mask mandate. Then I would submit a proposal to the school board for you to consider a mask mandate and putting the provisions on there. It would then be an open discussion, and a vote would be taken. Should it pass, then that is the only way we would implement a mask mandate, and it would have to be reviewed at every regularly scheduled board meeting and voted on at each meeting throughout the duration of the mandate. That's the only way that we would have to vote. At this time, folks, I don't see that happening. I'm not trying to get political or anything with the governor. I think he's pretty resolute in how he feels about this. And so, as I said at convocation, and as I said, our principals meeting today, we're going to approach this with common sense. We're going to work together. We're going to respect each other. And last year we had school every day. We're going to have school. It starts Thursday. Any questions from the board? I'm sorry, you guys can't ask questions, but you feel free to, more than free to email me, call me if you want to. I've been called. But any questions from the board?
Looks like you've done a great job. I appreciate every work you do, but
Not yet.
Been through it a couple times. Yeah, so here we go again.
it'll help not having an option 3, not having to 14 will help not having an option 3. Yes. Okay, any other discussion? Item number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding board policy BR, prohibition of race and sex discrimination.
Okay, so what you have in front of you, if I can show it to you. New policy, the one. Yep. Okay. All right. So what this is policy BR. This has been prepared for us by legal counsel. And it is directly in reference to House Bill 1775. And so to take you through this policy, the first particular page of it. So what you have here are 8 bullet point items that are straight from the law itself. And so here's what it says. And it quotes it, does not discriminate, complies. So there's our compliance statement. But then, teacher, administrator, or other employee of the district shall require or make part of a course the following concepts. So if you have the presentation that I put up there, and all I'm going to do is just reference it here. This would be slide number 2 or 3. Excuse me, slide number 3. But here's what it says. One race or sex is inherently superior to another race. Remember, these are prohibited. One race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. An individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. An individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely on partly because of his or her race or sex. Members of one race or sex should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. An individual's moral character is necessarily determined by his or her race or sex. An individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. Any individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress or account of his or her race or sex, or that first word, atrocity, or traits such as hard work ethic or racist or sexist, or work created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. So then we go on in this.
We start with, you do not need these.
That's correct. These are prohibited. Okay. Then you move on down. If a student, parent, teacher, school staff, members of the public may file a complaint alleging a violation of this policy. In order to file a complaint, we have laid out a process. Be submitted in writing, signed and dated by the complainant, identify the dates the alleged discrimination occurred, explain the alleged violation, include sufficient relevant information, identify any witnesses that may be interviewed. We will look at these complaints that are deemed valid. They will be treated as a Title IX discriminatory complaint. That is how House Bill 1775 reads. We have designated Jennifer Stegman, who is our compliance officer, assistant superintendent, to receive reports of the violation, and we give her email address there and her the office telephone. And then we go through the process, 10 days, we'll get back to the person, we'll know if this is going to be investigated or not. And then any results of something of a complaint that is investigated is reported to the State Department of Education. We do not list out the emergency rules and provisions that the State Board of Education adopted back in July because those are temporary. And they're going to review those. They have a process they're going to undertake in the fall. But it really doesn't need to be part of our policy is based on the law. Those rules go into effect when we're outlined. State school board adopts them. I will tell you, under their temporary or emergency rules, they're pretty clear. It's pretty defined. And it can go all the way up to suspension and possible revocation of the teacher's certificate should they violate that sentence. So with that, I submit to you tonight policy BR. We also have a supporting form for people to fill out, and that is the complaint form. So that is BR-F1, and it's just pretty straightforward. If there's something that they want to, they have to meet that criteria, and then we'll go from there.
How do we plan to put this out and train the staff?
So starting tomorrow morning, I have my first staff meeting at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Next day, I do it over again. I'm going out.
And then they will each sign off that says that they've been instructed.
That's what yours truly is doing tomorrow. You know it.
All right. We can't expect the teacher to follow these do not do's if they've not been told to do not do's. So we need to make sure that we have done our presentations of all of our ducks in a row. And then it's up to them.
And Jennifer's our officer. in charge of this.
She's our compliance officer, who receives everything. Once she receives a complaint, it will pretty much come to me, and from there we'll start working on it with our principals. So I'll have to determine if it's a big I investigation or little I, and updating the timeline stuff. And if it's a little I, that means the complaint does not merit a full investigation. There's a process and procedures for that. But if it's a big I, that means we have a potential serious violation on our hands of something that's occurred. It's a big deal.
Do you anticipate any act or issue?
From, I'll just be real truth with you, and if you go through that entire presentation there, we teach the Oklahoma academic standards. That's what our curriculum is based on. This is what I said at community meeting somewhere. I'm not, and I really don't mean this disrespectfully, but we're here to educate kids on the state-approved, adopted Oklahoma academic standards, and we're not going to engage. And you've heard me all say this before. School is not a place for politics, especially in the classroom, and I'm really not interested in opinions related to that. We're going to teach the essential standards of the Oklahoma academic standards and stick true to that. And if you want to teach and be part of the base of faculty and staff at Chickasha schools, let's do it. But that's the expectation. This is the law. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not here to debate that. This is the law. This is how we're going to follow. So,
Thank you.
all right, I make a motion to approve board policy BR, prohibition of race and sex discrimination as presented.
Second, Cliff. We have a motion by McGill, a second by Cliff. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Allen,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding supplemental staffing agreement with Specialty Care Medical Pediatrics Incorporated.
Okay, we want to contract with this nursing service to provide services for one of our students. Our student receives this services from his nursing company at home by doctor recommendation. It is all medical based, and the nurses know the student very well. The nurses know her communication devices and how she communicates, know how to best feed and work with the student. But we are her educational provider, but she needs her nursing assistants to be successful in school.
And just because I've already asked it, but I want it to go on record. We do have our own current school nurse, but they don't provide the services to the extreme that this company will provide the services, and that's why we have to contract outside of our own school nurse.
Yes.
Just want that on record.
Yes.
That also consume, was that school nurse available for other needs?
Correct.
Turn on line today. I move that we approve the supplemental staffing agreement with Specialty Care Medical Pediatrics.
Second, Alan. I had a motion by Cliff, to second by Alan. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Allen,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the ACT determination for the high school college career readiness assessment.
So every year we have to identify if we're going to use the ACT or the SAT for our assessment of our juniors. We tried the SAT at one time. It was not successful with our students. We've gone back to the ACT and have done that every year since. I think our students understand that ACT makes more sense to them, and they know that they are getting a free ACT exam to help them for entering college, but it does give us good information. I asked Rhonda too if she had some comments that she wanted to add about ACT.
So we did try the SAT one time and we had lots of complaints. The ACT is just easier to navigate and and it's the most widely accepted college entrance exam in the world.
Your attachment, I'm sure they made it and sent it to you, but it is incredibly helpful.
Yes,
It was
they did put
probably
it out
one
for
of
us.
the things that I've read that made the most sense in a long time. I mean, these are the reasons why.
Right.
And it was super simple. If you have a chance to give them any feedback, tell them their information is top notch.
ACT is very user friendly, having to get onto their site and work with them, their customer support, everything. They're so easy to work with.
It was very helpful.
What about help for ACT prep? Is there any of that?
I know that you have had ACT prep in the past. I don't know if it's in your schedule this year.
It's kind of, but not to the depth that we want. Okay. And we want to get outside help, and there's, some people get them that do that. It's just maneuvering it for all students is kind of expensive, but to bring them here for all of our juniors or sophomores.
I think that would be great.
We are looking into that.
Especially if you think about learning loss.
But ACT does have online practice assessments and online resources for tutoring and preparation.
Rhonda, we used to use Cardinal. Is he still available or is that?
Last year we was just virtual, and we wanted to have just like, I don't know, whatever it was, it didn't work out for us with our virtual thing. I'm hoping this year it becomes, we'll bring it in for everyone to be a part.
I do too. It seems like there were several years with a
Yes.
really good track record using that service.
We want to do that, good things.
It does.
I move that we,
We have action on this?
Yeah.
I think we-
We do.
no action needed.
I think it's just an announcement that that this is what we have to do. You don't have to vote on it.
It's all
Alright.
right.
It does say it. Yeah, it does say.
Since it's an item that you. All right, well,
Yes, we need to vote on this.
Yes, it's
Sorry.
action.
No, I was with you, but
That's what it says on the recommendation.
Okay, so I move that we adopt the ACT for our determination of high school, college, career readiness assessment.
Second.
we have a motion by Cliff, second by McGill. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item number 9, discussion of possible action regarding request solicitation for school picture contracts.
So this is, I'm not Jennifer.
No, we're not.
Let's just be very clear. Please don't confuse this. She's going to be here tomorrow or try to be here tomorrow, so. hopefully- But this is just a 3-year contract for school pictures is expiring. We've had additional companies request to provide services, and so they're asking for approval to solicit additional bids. I'll make a motion to approve the request for solicitation of school picture contracts.
Second Cliff. Motion, McGill, second Cliff. Any further discussion? Okay.
Lost our place. The contract will be for district wide, not individual buildings, not individual groups. It will be district wide. So it will be consistent.
I don't know, is that the correct answer?
I wish I knew that one
I would say it
100%.
depends on how they solicit bids.
That's kind of
Personally,
your
I would
question
like to-
because it has come up before.
I would like to do it district-wide personally, it's my preference.
Will they make that happen? I think
You seem to get better pricing if somebody has every site, but I also know there's a bunch of principals back there that also have their.
We've had it
Ins
as
and
a
outs.
district before, we've had it that way, but I think it didn't always work out for each site the same. So I don't know honestly what the discussion has been. We've done that before, but I know there were flaws in it, is why they went back to each of their own sites.
Is it possible we can have it this both ways?
Music, good.
I think we. As we're having this discussion.
Because there has been discussion where.
I would say just get a bid for just to do all the buildings and then get bids to do individual buildings.
So they come in real specific what the bids are. The different things that are outside of even the bid. Yeah.
Well, this is specifically for school pictures.
Yep.
So that does not mean you can do graduation pictures separately, do some other things, but this is
And so
specifically
I'm
for
guessing
school
school
pictures.
pictures means like in the fall, you get your school picture that goes in the year, but not buddy picture, tree picture, group picture.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Meredith,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item number 10, discussion and possible action regarding the revised building fund budget. And not Jennifer again.
Not Jennifer again, but this all goes back to our roof repairs, the insurance claim. And so the expenses for them were included in the FY21 budget. They're not complete, so we need to move over to the FY22 budget. This is the amount of 1.9 billion. And they're working on them. As I explained to you previously, the process of the walls is a very slow and tedious process. That's what this is about.
I can't even imagine the transportation nightmare that you're going to have with all that fixed off.
We're going to discuss it tomorrow. We're meeting with them tomorrow to discuss what we're going to do for Thursday. I told them I need that area open Thursday.
I mean, I've stood in that parking lot and ran people out of it myself on multiple times. And I can't even imagine the nightmare you're going to have over there if that's not open. But good luck to you.
Hey, Dan, has this, going through this with Bill Wallace, has this posed any issues that you hadn't considered or that brought forward some things that we now will be able to mitigate going forward?
No, I think the one thing is that it's taken a lot longer than what I thought on each building. And I went over and spent an hour on the roof with them the other day and watched the entire process and I understand.
Like on top of the roof? You got up there on top of the roof?
Yes. And just to understand the process and I went over it with them from the rolling the metal out and having to bend it. They're having to bend every piece of metal that's going up on top of the building. That doesn't come from the factory made that way. With the pieces being so long, they're having to bend every piece of metal. And so they bend every piece and then carry it up, what they're going to install that day, and then run the seamer, the machine down to seal the seam. So it's a long, tedious process, and I understand it now. And we should have some videos going up pretty quick just to show people what's happening.
Is that just indicative to Bill Wallace?
It was the same thing on Grand also.
Okay. That's what I
The
want to make
process
sure.
is
So
indicative of any standing seam roof.
if we're going forward, we can expect.
Yes, the standing seam roof takes a long time. You gotta seal those, run the machine down it and seal them up entirely. You know, the big thing we've been struggling with water.
That's the important word. Try to do it,
Yes.
yeah, one time.
So we want to get this right.
Yes.
I love it.
That's what I wanted to be able to bring out, is that this process is very lengthy.
Long.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for getting one.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the revised building fund budget.
Second, Alan. I have a motion by McGill, a second by Allen. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alan? Yes.
Cliff? Yes.
Meredith? Yes.
McKeel?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes. Item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding the activity center audio video updates.
Yes.
Yes.
It is. So what this does is, it's a 25 pager. It's a 25 page proposal.
Does that include school for There you go.
It includes training for a lot of.
These names are just cut longer.
But what this does is it makes upgrades over at the activity center from the auditorium, through the lobby, through the gym, down to the hospitality room. And the best way I know to describe this is we are looking for spaces that we can reimagine and make them to where they can be live streamed, that they can be used for classrooms, that they can be used to connect virtually with others. You can see fine arts, you can see our athletics, you can have professional development, you can have all sorts of kind of things. So in the, and I'm just going to give a brief rundown, in the auditorium, be a new sound system, new projector, new screen, cameras in there so we can live stream everything and we can stream out and stream in. So when we do a staff PD, we have people that are not able to join us because they're quarantined or whatever, they can join us and be part of those things. Any productions there will be streamed out as well for people to see their kids perform, should they be not able to attend for whatever reason. So the lobby, we'll have TV monitors out there, cameras, and we'll be able to use that for PDs, presentations, trainings. We'll also be able to stream onto those screens anything that's happening in the gym or in the auditorium. And the gym itself is really probably what I'm most excited about, because in the gym, we'll have TV monitors up on the walls. These are rather large TV monitors that we can stream in and stream out. We can use them as video information boards, but we're also going to be putting in cameras, and we will all be putting in equipment to develop our own production class, media production class. And so our goal, long-range goal, is to work with Canadian Valley Technology Center and have a class of our students, and then working together and teaching our kids. And so we would have a production room that would be in the athletic office area, back in there, just so that these stuff they need to be away from us, they can see and monitor everything. Then we have the hospitality rooms. There are 2 of them that is located on the other side of the gym. Those right now, really kind of bland rooms. We could increase what we do in those classrooms, and by adding TV monitors, cameras, all the type, folks, we can make them to where they can be classes used for current classes. We can do professional development. We can do meetings down there, stream in, stream out, things that are going on. In the other parts of the activity center, we can really expand our offerings. Similar to what we're doing here with this room, we're making it a multiple supply chain. We're just waiting of how this can be a multiple training room. We're doing the same thing down in the conference room. That'll be the next room that we hit. That's the other end of this building. So we're just trying to find these places because the world of online streaming, virtual, all that is here. And we have got to be very versatile, very flexible, so we can stay connected and we can grow and the work that we need to do.
And we're very grateful for the extra funds that are allowing.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Allows
thank you.
us to shop. That allows us to be so.
Yes.
So this will take a while. If you're wondering time frame, we will, and should this be approved tonight, we will start working with them to place the order. For this to be completed in totality, maybe May.
Question. Is this for Joe's round 2?
So Joe will be involved in on this. Industry Systems will be involved in on it. There's a lot of touchpad. Is how we're going to control it, and working off of iPads. We're still, there's a lot to say about that, but I can't say at the moment.
Okay.
Just
trying to figure out just wearing the hats.
Jennifer's wearing the big hat. She's in charge of technology, and this is her baby. She pulled me and dragged me all the way up to Enid to see her vision. And so, and it's a pretty cool vision.
So, you know, I'm gonna read the equipment. As far as the equipment, it says May, but can we go ahead and start putting the infrastructure in place for like the live streaming? Because again, a lot of the stuff we're gonna do, we don't have to have this equipment. See what I mean? I think that's where I'm sort of reluctant, because it's like, well, live stream really all you need is a phone and internet.
Well, and I'll be real true, our internet up there is not great.
Sure.
That's,
But this isn't gonna help with that, right?
so that would be a part that we plan on addressing E-rate funds. And I just want to make that particular piece.
So that's not this, then, right?
It's not-
There's a lot of pieces that are gonna puzzle with this.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, let's go ahead and put that in place so that when this is here, we've got, because I don't know why we haven't been live streaming our games. I don't know why we haven't been live streaming everything.
We've tried live
It's not-
streaming graduation in the past multiple times. and
Well, and,
It's
but
on
that's
and
what
it breaks, it's on and it breaks, it's on and it breaks. The internet is so terrible there. So
But it
that's
has,
gotta get fixed.
why internet has not been addressed.
You can't, it's hard to
It's
live
gotta be.
stream sitting in the gym to home. I mean.
Then-
have you talked to Hillary?
So when the communications, I really not have to observe for, I can't honestly say
It's a good question.
definitively yes or no. What I can tell you is this, when we were meeting with the engineers on this, they kept stressing over and over again, you're going to have to improve your internet. None of this is.
And I'm not disagree with that. I just know that companies, when they see schools, they see dollar signs. And this is really expensive.
It is.
And so I don't want to have just a bunch of junk. Right. And like, if we don't have, we're not, it's kind of like, you know, if there's not a need, then you just get a toy and then, oh, well, the internet doesn't work, so we're not gonna use it in 2 years. So does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. All I can tell you is we're going to upgrade the internet. I don't have that for tonight.
To add something to that, Kara, we got a part of our, the film equipment that we use to film all sports is called Huddle. We got a Huddle indoor camera last year, and we just got it hooked up at the end of basketball season. So we will be able to stream things through a YouTube account. We're working on figuring out how to do that this year for basketball, wrestling events like that.
Right.
And it's a manless camera that follows the ball.
And that's just what I'm looking at, because I think if these sort of parts aren't in place yet, then just getting the equipment's not really gonna.
And the question is there enough internet in Chickasha that will support the systems?
That's the issue.
I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping I think it's Hillary, the new company that's coming out with the fiber optic line. But I'm not gonna go on camera saying, I'll let them say, what we have doesn't work. Yeah.
So when do we, you mentioned something going out to bid or something. When do we do that?
That's a different question.
We've already approved the
All of
infrastructure stuff several months ago, 6 months ago, the next phase of it, and it was, I can't remember which building,
That's why
that
I
was
asked.
one, it was one of them.
It was one because we have to upgrade
Still
it.
negotiating. like,
For us to do this,
So we
it has to
start
go out.
moving forward on that too. I love all this. So now
So
I'm excited,
is-
I want to get that foundation.
Okay, Rick, can I say something on it too? So one thing to remember too with these ESSER III funds that we're using, we have to spend our money up front and then get reimbursed. So everything we're doing, we're having to phase and do it stages because sometimes the state isn't real fast at refunding the money back on claims to come back. So we are doing this, upfront, getting the approvals and all of that, but we're still gonna have to do things in stages because we have to still make payroll while we're waiting for money to come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so is there a need to pass this today, or is it something that we can check in on to make sure we're gonna be able to get internet that would support it?
If we do, we're waiting on approval here before we can order
The
anything. In the
internet-
queue for supply chain.
That's already been done. It's in the phase of the E-rate.
Okay.
So we've already approved that.
Okay, so that internet, good, right? Internet we have approved to come in, will support the system.
Correct.
Well, the infrastructure upgrades, the internet service provider wasn't part of the E-rate, the
Okay.
thing that we went over last time, but that gets shopped regularly.
This has been sitting on my desk now for. We're just,
February,
we're just waiting for approval.
Okay.
I won't let us order anything without you guys saying sure.
I need a motion.
I make a motion to vote on the action regarding the activity center audio video updates.
approve the quote for video reality.
Second,
Second, Cliff.
I have a motion by Alan, and second by Cliff. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Alan?
Yes.
Cliff? Yes. Curtis?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes. Item number 12 is the consent agenda. The following items which concern items of urgent nature will be approved at board meetings will be approved by one vote unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and action on the following items. Anybody want to start?
Our agreement with BOK, I seem to remember the agreement for like your bond service financial institution, you can follow the same state guidelines as a construction manager. You don't have to take the lowest one. You can evaluate relationship and all that. I know we did last time, but we hadn't had one for a while. So we did go out, we shopped everybody, we got them to actually present like partial plans, looked at the whole thing, and it would be okay if it had moved so far. But I think you're limited to 3-year contracts. We could do like 2 then, if we could add on 1. So I think we're adding on the 1 to the 2 we already had. Just, so that's my understanding. Just kind of stating that in case if we come up, we don't go shop it because we're happy with our relationship and we know that the price is competitive before, the next time it's due, no one thinks that we're not being diligent or anything.
I think that.
On the athletic handbook, we have not addressed that before. We do that when we did all the other policy.
No.
That's something I brought forward to Rick. I was going through it. There was
So what you have in this is the copy that shows you all the revisions that are being proposed to the handbook. So you have the strike throughs, that is the old verbiage that would be removed, should have been approved. The highlighted is the new. That is the new language that is being proposed.
I liked it. I like the fact that we relook at it. It comes back down to my standard question, who's responsible for implementing it and how do you get the coaches trained?
Oh, yeah, what?
The coaches trained with the handbook? How do we know that they've all seen it and read it and understand their responsibility? Like, for example, do they have to dress appropriately? Just off the top of my head. That's in there. How do we know that the coaches have seen it? Who trains them? Who makes sure they read it? And do they sign off on something that says that they have?
So we have an annual coaches meeting before each year, which we just had, talked about the implementation of the new procedures and stuff. Once this is approved, we will send that out to every coach so they have a copy of it. And then that's my job to oversee and to make sure that we're following the guidelines.
Perfect.
Do they sign off on anything? Because when I went through here, I know there's some things that we're not even doing. So how,
They do not sign off. We haven't had them sign off. We could.
so how do we, I mean, if we don't have them sign off on it, then what, how do we know that they're following it and adhering to it, and because they don't have any ability?
We said if we see something that needs to be addressed, well, we can address it with them and move forward from there.
So I guess my question is, we created it, we're gonna go through and prove it, we're gonna hand it all out, but nothing really says, you understand that you're responsible for this sign, because you're now gonna be held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that.
Even if it's just initial when they get there, that they receive.
Well, I mean, because in going, the initial problem I had going through here is some of it's redundant, we got spelling errors, and we're a school, and I'm just not okay with that. So that's why I wondered who all looked at this, and then I came to several sections and thought, I mean, specifically, like, oh, like, no, right now, we're not even doing that. So if this is now a new handbook,
It's not a new handbook, it's a revised handbook.
right, but it's now going out, so it's, some of this is new information that they
Yeah.
have to be responsible for, and some of them are new coaches, this is a new one.
Right.
So how are we gonna make sure that now everyone thinks, oh, it's the same one, that they've made changes and implemented the new things?
He answered that. He's responsible to get it out to them and make sure that they've all seen it. That's Jerry Don's job.
Right.
And then if you see something that's not being implemented,
Oh, no.
we need to let him know.
Okay, so what we're doing is other people have to be accountable, like sign off and be responsible for information, but we're saying athletics isn't like that. We can just hand it out there and like,
Well, I don't know, that's, Pam, do you have every one of your special ed teachers sign off on the special ed handbook that they've seen it and hear by the stuff in it?
They sign off on an agenda that has the handbook listed on there that it was discussed. So it's just a sign-in sheet with an agenda showing the handbook was on the agenda.
Would be the same thing. So maybe that's what he needs, is an agenda with this, that's on there, they sign off on it.
so, I mean, I think there needs to be something that holds everyone's feet to the fire.
You got it.
Because otherwise we just come to you and like, we saw this and we saw that, well, that's Jerry Don's job. Well, I don't think that's a good plan.
Well, it's more about being consistent across the district. I mean, if we,
Right, so that's not a good plan.
we got handbook, I don't know that that's necessarily a plan or not a plan, it's just, we'd like to be consistent with handbooks or generally, our general stance, we'd like for someone to sign off and say, yes, I saw it, initial the date, then we just do that
I
across the
think
board.
we do the same thing with our faculty handbooks, we do the same thing with our students handbooks,
Right,
so,
so athletics, we ought to be consistent.
I think he's willing to fix that.
So do we need to add that into what we are now?
We're approving the handbook, no. That's a procedure.
So can we have someone go through this and fix the typos?
You can get with Jerry Don.
No, that's no, this should already been done for that board, we should have to replace it.
I have a question. Is there an activity handbook similar to this? Because Title IX applies to some activities and.
Another procedures.
So, since there's activities listed through here, it might be good if we put athletic and activity handbook. Would that-
There were some parts that were a little vague and probably because it's old and it's sort of been added to a lot, so then it kind of like, Christie, I wonder if we could just come up with an activity athletic handbook that covers all of that.
So we think that's addition to this or?
I was thinking, when you consolidate, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Is that, I mean, it does mention them, so until we have something created, I mean, I guess we're gonna go forward with this. Still,
There already, yeah, it's already is, there's some,
this, I know.
the title doesn't say, yeah, I think that's what Kristen said.
Yeah, well, to her point, I can see how there are activity here in the athletic camp. That's the way I'm talking about consistency and experience.
I just wanted, like I said, it needs to require, being applied in choir, band, and whatever, things that our audition.
Are you good with that? So, if you would just add that to the title, or we can do that as we approve it, athletics/activity handbook.
Yep.
Does that work for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I need a motion.
Okay. I move to accept the Chickasha Public Schools Athletic Handbook with the correction of changing it to the activity/athletic handbook. Or athletic/activity.
However they word it.
I don't want you to just add an activity to the title.
Second.
I have. Oh, is it on the consent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then let's pull it.
So, all right,
Let's
so
pull
which-
it.
Okay.
We'll pull it, do it
That's-
separate.
That's part of the motion when you approve the consent agenda. So don't lose track of that.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, you need to pull
We'll pull it. That would be-
Yes,
I
and I'll
would
be a
say-
separate vote.
So we do not need to add anything as far as who we without adding a signature page.
No, I'm trusting.
I made my notes here.
Trust our admin team to take care of it. I think they heard us.
So that would include activity, people too, as I think they read it, understand.
Yes.
And my standard question, there's a sectioning on here, someone check that.
Yeah, Jennifer did sign off on it. It's the
Yeah,
second page of that.
I didn't
This
see
one's
it.
actually.
It was a little line on the next page. bro. It's easy to miss.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I know, I'm so glad. Okay, any other questions on consent agenda? Comments, concerns?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented with except for item 12G being pulled for separate vote.
I need a second. Second, Cliff, sorry. I have a motion from McGill, a second by Cliff. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Helen? Yes.
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 So make a motion to approve item 12G, Chickasha Public Schools Athletic Handbook with the addition of the word activities included into the title.
I need a second. Second, Cliff. I have a motion, McGill, a second, Cliff. Any further discussion?
Sorry, I do have one question. Did that change any, like adding activities, did that change? any additional content? Say this word, activities like that.
Different schools,
Still.
yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, when we were talking about it, an activity that I'm very familiar with is FFA. So you're gonna get it to the FFA advisors now and say, you need to read this and adhere to it. It says things like be positive, be child-centered.
Yeah.
Dress appropriately,
That's, yeah.
everything in
Applies
it.
to all.
I didn't know about the equipment.
So
That's kind of what it is.
there's
Well,
equipment in
there's
it,
equipment,
yeah.
I bet,
And
I bet they're using their equipment.
I think it's very global.
Yeah.
It'll get the more people that
Just
it
making sure, I
gets
just want to make
underneath
sure that.
that umbrella and that net, it'll get more patient as you go forward
I just want to make
naturally.
sure that, I can think that the word, we're not. Bigger.
Any motion in a second? Do we have a vote on that one yet?
No.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Alan?
Yes.
Cliff? Yes. Curtis?
Yes.
You?
Yes.
Yes. And then we'll leave it up to Dragon and Rick to make sure that it is handed out, signed for, and that not only athletics, but activities now receive information on what their expectations will be. Okay. Now that we're through that, let's look at item 13, discussion of possible action regarding proposed executive session to discuss employment, hiring, or resignation of individual salaried public officers or employees listed on Exhibit A, Executive Session Authority, Oklahoma State Title 25-307B1.
Make a motion, convene to executive session to discuss 13A as written.
I have a motion by Michelle, a second by Alan. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alan?
Yes.
Cliff? Yes. Curtis?
Yes.
You?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, folks, have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome to stay if you want.
Who was running the stream earlier? Were you running the stream? Eric was? But we're not, just, you turn it back on or not?
Yeah, he's like still watching.
Oh, okay. The house hanging out. Whoa, who's this?
Eric.
Thank you.
And they're fully charged.
Let's go do this. Correct. Mhm.
Item number 14. The board entered into executive session at 7:13 PM to discuss the hiring, resignations, and retirements of individual salary public officers or employees listed on Exhibit A as authorized by 25 OS Section 307B1. Those present in executive session were Zach McGill, Robin Morse, Kara Curtis, Christie Cliff, Lori Allen, and Superintendent Rick Crossland. No action was taken by the Board of Education. Board returned to open session at 8:23. Item number 15. Discussion of possible action regarding the hiring of individuals listed on Exhibit A.
Move. There is, yep, hire the individuals listed on Exhibit A.
Second Cliff. Motion McGill, second Cliff. Discussion, roll call.
Howard,
Yes.
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Yes. Item 15, discussion and action regarding the hiring of individuals listed on Exhibit A. Oh, we did that. How about 16? Discussion and action regarding the transfer, reassignment of workday, and adjustment of individuals listed on item A.
I move we approve the transfer and reassignment of individuals listed on Exhibit A.
Second. Motion Cliff, second Allen, discussion, roll call.
Howard,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse.
Yes. Item 17, discussion and possible action regarding the resignations of individuals listed on Exhibit A.
I move that we approve the resignations of individuals on Exhibit A.
Second.
Motion Cliff, second McGill, discussion, roll call.
Howard,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse.
Yes. Item 18, discussion and possible action regarding the retirement of individuals listed on Exhibit A.
We did have,
We
we
have
had a couple, or was that just resignation? I think we had a couple.
we have some retirements.
Make sure, I don't think, I think maybe it's just resignation, I thought, was it just resignation? I don't think we had. Just got, maybe, let's double check.
Paris looking.
I don't see any.
So no action there.
Temporary.
Choose it towards the end. So no action.
We do not need a number. 18, so 19 is new business.
None.
None at this time. Item number 20, superintendent's report.
I'd like to say welcome back to our staff. The teachers report back, students return on Thursday. I thought convocation went okay this morning, celebrating the beginning of our new school year. I'd like to say thank you to Matthew Yoakum and Emery Josie for hosting our event. That was highlighted by palm, cheer, band, stepping out, Brooklyn Alexander from Lincoln, Miss Murray, and host special guests. I would also like to say thank you to First Bank for sponsoring barbecue for lunch. That was really good, nice thing. Meet the Chicks will be this Friday night beginning at 10 p.m. Everyone's invited to come out, meet the band, palm, cheer, cross country, softball, and football teams, and then football practice on that event. Our condolences go out to the family of Kay.
Item number 21, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second Curtis.
I make a motion that we adjourn. To be official. For sure.
Roll call.
Howard,
Yes.
Cliff? Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
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 Lord, almost Sean,
Sorry,
maybe
Kara. I'm sorry if I keep on.
Sorry, face twitching, maybe.
Saw the mechanic shutter out there and it really got to me.
That's it,
Sorry, I
folks.
apologize.